Benbridge is your personal jeweler, your on-call treasure hunter, and fearless fashion explorer. 20 years ago, we introduced the most beautiful diamond we have ever offered. The signature Forevermark diamond, found exclusively at Benbridge, is beautiful, rare, and responsibly sourced. Each diamond is hand-selected and graded beyond the normal 4 Cs. Less than 1% of the world's diamonds qualify to become a signature Forevermark diamond. Click the banner to explore our signature Forevermark diamond collection.
Benbridge.
Rock and roll doggy.
It's a musical.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. It's Rock and Roll Doggies. My name is Jason Acquisto, and I'm here with my co-host, Don Pardue. Say hi, Don.
Hi, Don.
Hi, Don. Great. Beautiful. We are 2 lifelong friends, and our podcast is all about breaking down music that's been important in our lives. And we're going album by album through the catalog of the U2. U2, their music, what it's meant to us. And we grew up in the Midwest, in Middle America. We grew up in a small town of Kentucky, and we've known each other since we were teenagers. And we went to church together, and we've always loved U2. This gives us a chance to kind of talk about on a podcast the same thing that we've had late night phone conversations about for years, for decades. The songs of U2, what they've meant to us, and on a personal level, and also, you know, what we think they might mean to other people, and just to kind of break down the whole situation. We have gotten through side 1 of their 1983 release, War, their 3rd album. We agreed that it is the most focused, most polished, most professional, most grown-up sounding album yet. And we've gone through side 1. We're about to start on side 2. And for anybody who's not a Gen Xer, they used to have this thing called albums, where you'd turn over an album to hear side 2 because the other songs were on the other side. So ask your mom or dad about that. So let's go ahead and pick up where we left off, Don. Side 2, where are we at here?
Side 2, song 6 is The Refugee. You know, I think for me, and I think you're probably higher on this album than I am, and I'm not saying it's a bad album at all. You know, when you have Sunday Bloody Sunday as your lead track, I think you're in for a pretty good album. I think that looking back on it, there were some songs in the middle of the album that kind of ran together for me. The Refugee and Drowning Man being 2 of those. Red Light kind of, you know, I would kind of throw that in there. In other words, these were songs that I might skip through. I would always play Two Hearts Beat as one. But, you know, when you go back and you revisit these songs as an adult, you have a different sense of appreciation. If I were listening to this album for the first time now, The Refugee doesn't get passed over. As I had mentioned previously, his songwriting has taken a step forward in this album, and I think this is a prime example. So, you know, what I think he does here is he's painting a picture of a woman whose father has gone off to war. She's waiting for him to come home. And so it's almost a day that's encapsulated in a song to represent a greater period of time. So, for example, verse 1 is set in the morning, and the other is set in the evening. So you get the sense that, you know, during each verse, she's waiting to go to America, but she never gets there. Mm-hmm. So you get the sense that this song is dragging on and on thematically for her to get to America, and you don't know if she ever gets to America. And I think that's some pretty savvy songwriting on his part. And again, I know I'm being repetitious, but I think this is another example of where his songwriting kind of takes a step forward. It's ingenious. It's a bit creative. It's thoughtful. What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry that you missed it all these years. Great track. You know, we all have different ways that we consume based on our own emotional, you know, and musical tastes at different stages. But man, I've always loved it. And I love the fact that it's different. It's got a different sound. You know, side 1 was hard driving and kind of at a certain level all the way through. Didn't take a lot of musical chances, didn't veer off from that mainstream rock sound, except for Drowning Man, a little different. But I mean, now we have this kind of almost this Caribbean kind of twangy, beat that's got this. I don't know how to describe that. That's not the right word, but it's got this scat singing, this kind of background vocal that's a very unusual musical sound. But the topic, I think, and we talked about this last episode on Side 1, the topic is something that could easily fit right in on Songs of Experience, the topics of 2020.
Yeah.
This is a song from today. This is a song about a refugee in 1983, 82 when it was written. And the longing to get to America to make her life better. One day we'll get to America, the land of opportunity, El Norte, whatever it is, the shining streets of gold. And, that's the way a lot of the world sees America. This is a song that is timeless to me in the subject matter. And I think the music is cool. It has that kind of sliding guitar. It's got just a different feel to it. I think it's separate from the other songs that you would skip through. But I mean, I'm not here to tell you you're right or wrong. I've always enjoyed it. I don't think there's a lesser track on this album. I don't think there's a weak spot. You're going to see that I rank it very high when we get to that point. But yeah, I think it's a great song.
It is the precursor to Red Flag.
Yes.
And I remember you and I having a discussion about this shortly after Songs of Experience was released. I think we pretty much both simultaneously said Red Flag takes us back to war, and it takes us back to really the refugee.
I remember that.
It's the same song, but yet it's not. It's the same theme. It's just written at a different time.
I think those are great companion songs. Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if if they were, and I'm sure that didn't cross their minds. But I wonder how much of that they went back, said, let's pull up the refugee and listen to it a few times.
Well, I think they've written about refugees maybe a time or two since then, between those two songs. But yeah, two hearts beat as one. Great track. It is one of the singles that was released back when that was a thing. They would release singles from albums. So this was a minor hit, I think a rock radio hit, definitely an MTV favorite. It's a great song. To me, it is. It's a great track musically. The bass, we kind of have a new appreciation for the rhythm section of U2 since we started this podcast. But Larry is great on Two Hearts Beat as One. There's a lot of fills. There's a lot of little moments in there where, as a former, I used to mess around with the drums a little bit. I just can appreciate it. I've also said on this podcast, I'm not a musician. So to be clear, I wasn't really a drummer. I messed around a little bit. So disclaimer. The words are what's great on here. It's that same thing as the feeling and the expression in Gloria, the feeling that you can't express, that you can't put into words, that you can't verbalize. I try to spit it out. I try to explain the way I feel. That is, to me, the same thread that runs through all of U2's albums. That longing, that God-shaped hole, that inability to speak to or about God, that spiritual depth inside of you, that inability to explain the things of the Spirit, as the Apostle Paul talked about the groaning of the Spirit. So I think, to me, what I love about this song is that it's kick-ass. The music is great. It grabs you by the scruff of the neck, but yet it's about confusion. I don't know what to say. I don't know who I am. I don't know how I feel. Which side am I on? I can't stop this dance. What are we going to do? It's our last chance. I can't even explain the way I feel. but it still is a great rock track, and that's classic U2.
I don't get the answers right. I'll leave that to you. Is this love out of fashion, or is it the time of year? Are these words distraction to the words you want to hear? That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff. In my mind, this is, I don't know, one of the top 3 tracks on the album.
Do not disagree. It also, speaking of remixes, there's a great remix.
Yeah. Hearts, beat as
So
one.
great.
So I had that on vinyl.
You did?
Yeah, and I'll probably still have it on cassette. I still remember the album, the quote unquote album cover for that.
You mean the 12-inch dance mix?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
full
one,
size.
yes. I think
remember.
the New Year's Day remix was on the other side.
I know, it was on the same disc. It's just so much fun, that whole heart. But just a great song, and it's funny that they made dance mixes out of these intense songs about war-torn countries and broken bottles under children's feet, but they're doing, the club remix.
Yeah, the album has it has a kind of a march feel to it. You just get the sense of people marching and a drummer boy, and that taking the marching steps and
oh, for sure.
You get that right off the bat with Sunday Bloody Sunday, and
It's a
Red Light, track 8. You get a really, really good dose of trumpet in this song. I'll say that.
I like it.
Some of these songs, I think, in my mind, I think the music, the lyrics are ahead of the composition of the music. I don't know. I'm not dissing the composition of the music, and I don't mean to be redundant, but his songwriting just takes a big step forward here, and not only in his songwriting, but in kind of the breadth of his experience. We're talking about here. This is a song that, you never know for sure, what these songs are about unless the artist comes out and just point blank tells you what it's about. But it sounds like this is a song that was written about an encounter with the red light district of a major city, i.e. Amsterdam. It was actually recorded with a group called Kid Creole and the Coconuts.
Oh yeah,
who provided backup. And I read that the Coconuts actually took off their tops during this performance.
Okay, well now I like
the studio, and there was a red light that was beamed in during the recording of this to kind of add some ambience. So you've got Coconuts dancing without their tops on, and you've got a red light. So it kind of sets the mood for what the song's about.
I heard that as well about Kid Creole and about the Coconuts and about the red light district, prostitution and all that. To me, it was much more personal, again, about that teenage struggle of who am I and who am I, going to be. I also love the kind of the urban feeling of like the city at night. It's your own late show as you jump to the street below. Where can you go to leave yourself behind? It's this real, if it was cornball, it'd be like you belong to the city kind of thing,
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
It's kind of Miami like that. It's got this urban, gritty kind of feeling of loneliness in the big city. Where can you go to leave yourself behind? This person obviously is suffering in a way that I thought I was at 17. And I took it personally. I give you my love, love, love. I give you my love. To me, that was an assurance that life is good and that God is love and that things like that are real. But still, to me, this song is about a struggle. You're not alone. I give you my love. To me, it's about a struggle and not just an encounter. I love the fact that we keep talking about how art is subjective, because to me, that's what it means. Somebody else might have a completely different meaning in their own experience. And I think that's great because it got written by somebody about a certain thing, but it's not owned by that experience,
It's a little bit like Stranger in a Strange Land in that sense. Some of these songs are thematically, it's about encounters, red light, perhaps the refugee. They're observational. It's in some sense it's more than it's introspective, but by it being observational, it's introspective. if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. To me, very interesting.
One thing I think it's important to point out, and you and I have never talked about this, but you are about a year and a half older than I am. So you see this album in a more personal light than I did, because you were experiencing things a little bit ahead of what I was. So whereas I see this album, I kind of take it a little bit more at face value. You were internalizing this a lot more than I am. Now, the interesting thing is when we get to the next album, I catch up. I become, at that point, I make that album my own. You're making this album your own ahead of me.
Very interesting.
Yeah, just kind of caught onto that.
Huh.
And that's probably why I'm kind of here going, and you're embracing it, and I'm going, yeah, it's a good album, but I'm not ready to.
So once again, 1983, I was 16, 17 years old, and junior and senior in high school, and coming from a church background, trying to figure things out, and also, and to me, this was like a connection I'd never had before. All these songs were becoming my own, and I made them my own. I claimed this whole vibe of this group out of war, mostly because I'd never had that connection with any kind of art or any kind of anything before. It's something I could relate to for the first time ever. So the song that is, to me, the other bookend of the album after New Year's Day is Surrender, the next track. To me, this is one of the all-time great U2 tracks.
Wow.
It is.
It's a good track. I don't dispute that.
It's everything you want in a U2 track. It's got the drama. It's got the climactic moment. It's got the layered expert production. It's got everyone playing at the top of their game. It's got Larry doing things besides a straight 8 feel. He gets to do some, several fills and transitions in there. It's got really cool background vocals by this, this sounds like a kid's chorus, that's just, it reinforces kind of the whole idea that these childlike perspective is still there in the band. And to me, it's the climax of the album, and it's the other bookend from New Year's Day, which sets up the whole thing as this world is in turmoil. This is a world in war, symbolically and literally. And then Surrender is the other end of that, saying this is the only way we can resolve this, is to surrender not to our enemies but to ourselves. Like the song says, if I ever want to live, I've got to die to myself someday. So it's definitely a Christian thought. It is a spiritual vision of, in light of this world that's on fire right now, I've got to die to myself to resolve this, so the answer is found in Christ. I found this in the Rolling Stone review of when it came out. In Surrender, the Edge plays a coolly sustained guitar. And I thought, that's great. That sounds awesome. That is who he is. He's coolly sustained. But also he has that slide guitar in this song.
That article would have been pinned on my wall or your wall growing up.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. That video for the Under a Blood Red Sky brought these songs to life so much that when I saw the Edge playing that slide guitar, I guess it's a slide guitar in his lap, right?
A slide is played with a slide.
Okay.
I know that sounds redundant, but
no, but I know what you mean. Either way, that to me was transcendent. Bringing out this otherworldly sound, I just thought it was so great. Like I said, at the top of their game, each member of the band, and it's the apex of this album, and I think it's an all-time great track.
It is quintessential U2, and I hate to use that descriptor because the band, contrary to what I know some people believe, the band has drastically morphed over the years into different sounds and so forth. But still, I think at this moment, this is kind of classic U2 in a sense. The Edge strumming. I've always kind of assumed that when she got herself up on the 48th floor, I always had this vision that she's standing on the ledge.
Yeah.
It's like it's like in Forrest Gump, when she's standing on the edge of the building.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I envision that it's what is she going to surrender to? And then at the end of that verse, and if I want to live, I got to die to myself someday. And again, you interpret this differently. I'm looking at it as we talked about. I'm kind of looking at it black and white, and you're internalizing this. But is she standing on the edge of that building, about ready to jump? And is she surrendering to something greater, or is she about to surrender to the thing that's going to prompt her to jump? Now, I don't know that even the interpretation that she's standing on the 48th floor, getting ready to jump, is an accurate interpretation. I've read that, that there's some speculation that maybe she was, and I don't know, this seems kind of far-fetched, that maybe she was being pimped out and she was a good girl and she was a good wife and she went up to the 48th floor of a penthouse and now she's being pimped out.
You are so literal.
To find out who she is.
You are so literal. You have to know exactly.
Not necessarily. I don't. Darn sure don't have to know it on the next album.
Well, good, because
we can't.
It's not possible. But I mean, to me, I actually transition out of the narrative about this woman, this Sadie, into the first person of, if I want to live, I've got to die. That's kind of like, I forgot about her. Her drama was.
How can you forget about Sadie, for crying out loud?
It's not that I don't care. I just feel like the song.
She's about ready to jump, and
she's in that part of the song, and now the last part is about is first person. It's about me.
Papa sing my song.
Yeah,
don't.
Great kids.
Yeah.
The city is bright. It's brighter than day tonight. That city at night kind of thing. That alone in a crowd kind of thing. It's not an overstatement to remember that as a 16-year-old in a small city, I could not wait to get out and get to a big city. I knew I'd be happier in a bigger place, and I could not wait to experience the bright lights of a bigger city. And so that to me was very attractive. The whole thing, it's the whole romantic vision of all this. I was completely seduced by every level of this album.
Here's the difference. You were Sadie. I was watching Sadie from afar. So you have a different perspective because you're Sadie. I have a different perspective because I'm watching Sadie.
Master has freed Dobby. Thank you.
Benbridge is your personal jeweler, your on-call treasure hunter, and fearless fashion explorer. 20 years ago, we introduced the most beautiful diamond we have ever offered. The signature Forevermark diamond, found exclusively at Benbridge, is beautiful, rare, and responsibly sourced. Each diamond is hand-selected and graded beyond the normal 4 Cs. Less than 1% of the world's diamonds qualify to become a signature Forevermark diamond. Click the banner to explore our signature Forevermark diamond collection.
Benbridge.
Track 10. 40. Oh, and by the way, this is a perfect time to state that War is listed as one of the 80s best albums by Rolling Stone. Do you care to take a guess as to where they ranked this album?
Somewhere between 30 and 50.
Right in the middle.
This is the 40th.
You think Rolling Stone has a sense of humor like CCM? You think they collaborated?
I think that they ranked this as number 223 of their all-time albums.
And the 40th best album of the 80s, yeah.
Of the 80s. You're saying there are 222 albums that are better? Nah, there's not 40 that are as good in the 80s, that's for sure. So what about 40?
I think I think this was the song where Adam plays lead guitar and Edge plays bass.
The story goes that Adam had left for the night and they needed a song.
Imagine that.
To close out. I love 80s Adam. I guess I wanted to be him.
Adam is the coolest member of U2 in the mid-80s. If there's a cooler guy in a band in 1985 than Adam on stage at Live Aid, I would like to see that person.
I don't think he exists.
They wrote this song. It's my understanding they wrote this song, recorded it, and mixed it in less than an hour because they were waiting. There was another band, Mr. or Slade, somebody like that, was waiting to was
Echo and the Bunnymen?
they were waiting to get in. Hey, don't knock Echo and the Bunnymen. They were waiting to get in for their next session, so the group had to knock out a song. So I guess Bono opens up his Bible, spits out a few verses. Edge hops on bass. Steve Lillywhite works his magic. Boom, you've got the last track. Send it to production.
I don't think it's that casual. If it was that casual, that's an inspired moment of serendipity. I think it's calculated that that's the verse that they used at the chapter.
No, I think I was just, yeah.
I know you're
think
being
you're probably
funny.
right. Yeah. Well,
But it's like, look, come on, that's a perfect tie-off to that album. And they don't try to add anything to it. It's so great.
is this song underrated?
Undiluted. It is straight.
It's underrated?
I think it's appropriately rated. I think it's rated as greatness. It is. I wonder if they when they recorded, did they know it was going to be the closing song at so many concerts? And
I'm of the belief
would embrace that.
I'm of the belief that, and I don't want to jump the gun. I'm of the belief, and I've said this for years, that Where the Streets Have No Name should always open every U2 show, and that 40 should always close every U2 show, regardless of what album they're touring, because you can't have a better opening track than Where the Streets Have No Name for a concert. But I digress. I don't want to jump the gun.
Disagree. It should be Bass Trap.
Three Sunrises. Mm-hmm. Desert of Love.
You're right. It's the perfect concert closing.
It is
song.
I listen to U2 X Radio, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but I don't really care. One of these people, they list their 5 favorite songs. Fans call in and talk about how great this song is and what it means to them. And this one chick called up. I hope she's not listening to this, but
well, no, I hope she is. I want people to listen to it.
Well, let me put it this way: if she is, she's probably going to post something.
What are you going to say about her? What did she do? How did she?
Well, she said that 40 is one of those songs where, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here a little bit, that it's one of those emotional moments where everybody hugs and holds hands, and people walk out of the stadium singing the chorus to 40, and it was kind of melodrama of all of that. And
That's not wrong.
I don't know that I've ever held hands with a stranger. I mean, heck, you and I saw him together. You and I weren't holding hands during In God's Country, for crying out loud.
I wasn't? Wait, hold on. That wasn't
I
your
had
hand?
chill bumps, but I wasn't holding your hand.
Oh, look, at Ichthus and
Playing
at
air guitar, maybe, but that's another story. Huh?
Listen, every head is bowed and every eye is closed. and we're gonna sing one more chorus of 40. Now that's something that I can't imagine holding hands. I missed that part.
Or embracing or hugging or French kissing. I don't know what it was.
She meant heavy petting. I think she meant metaphorically. It had to be. But
I don't know how we got off
but
on
the
that.
good thing is that you're mad at her. So go ahead and hold on to that. I think that it is something that people turn into cliches, and that's their fault. This is it is a gorgeous passage of scripture from
Definitely
from Psalm 40 that is an absolute foundational piece of theology that I don't know how else to build this up as, like, man, if you could pick one psalm, and it wasn't like maybe one that we all grew up memorizing in Sunday school about.
Right. The Lord is my shepherd.
Right. So this is a song about being down. Man, you're in the valley. You're in the pit. The miry clay. Bro, that's some clay.
Miry clay. Right.
I know.
But this is who U2 is, though. This is who U2 is. Right. U2 says, I hate to kind of say that they're a message band, but U2's essence, who they are at their very core, is things are jacked up, things are gritty, things are not pretty, but there's hope and there's a way out.
Yes. They say yes to life. They say love wins. Nothing is stronger than love. In the end, We will prevail. We, as in those who embrace love, those who embrace a higher power, the best of our own human nature, and all of those things lead toward a positive outcome. You're exactly right. And it's funny because they don't come off that way. They're not like Up with People or Petra, they're, like you said, they live in the real world, for God's sake. So
Right,
it's not,
right.
it's not sing-songy and it's not cheesy. But yeah, when you talk about the miry clay, that clay is very miry. And this is the real world. But there is a rock, and he set my feet upon a rock. So I think all of this is, and especially when it came at the end of that, I'm going to say it's a landmark concert because of the advent of video. And that is one of the best rock concerts ever filmed. Under a Blood Red Sky, this was the closing track. And wow, that really just it hangs in the air, as in, that's who this band is. Like you said, this is the essence of U2. And it's not even a U2 song. It's straight out of Scripture.
But what does it say about a group that can just open up a Bible and spit out a verse and write a song in less than an hour? And not only do that, but it doesn't come off sounding crappy.
Right. And
it
nowadays,
comes off sounding a beautiful,
exactly,
dirge type of heartfelt, passionate song of yearning.
Yeah.
And they can pull that off. It says something about who they are as creative individuals, if indeed they pulled that off in less than an hour.
Well, even if 10 hours, because in other hands and in other times, this would have been a obnoxious praise chorus that goes on forever.
Right.
Nothing against praise choruses, but I mean, that's one of the big jokes about it, is that they always just say the same words over and over for 10 times. And like, I thought we were sitting down. No, we're going to sing it again. And like, in lesser hands, that's what this would have been.
Yeah, it's amazing that they can pull that off. They can recite a piece of Scripture and it seems fresh. It doesn't seem Christianese.
Mm-hmm. So real quick, I will remind our listeners that we are Rock and Roll Doggies, rockandrolldoggies.com. That'll get you straight to our podcast, all episodes. And that we are at Roll Doggies on Twitter. We are Rock and Roll Doggies on Instagram and Facebook. And it's been a lot of fun to do some, it's so easy to do polls on Twitter. Did a poll on what do you like better, October or Boy? Because that was kind of the first phase of our journey through the albums. And not surprisingly, people liked Boy better than October. But this is the third album we've gone through here, and War definitely is a big step up. So usually what we do is do rankings, and we name the standout track, the underrated track is for each of us, and then the standout lyrics, and then we give it a number, a rating, a 1 to 10 scale rating. So it's about this time as you are finishing up your Baileys, and I am coming to the bottom of my glass of single malt Glenlivet. This is my standout track, Surrender. It is
that is your best track on the album.
That is my best track on the album. It is the climax. It is the apex of the album. It is everything you want in a U2 song. It closes the parentheses, from where New Year's Day opened it. It is absolutely the best song to me on this album.
Benbridge is your personal jeweler, your on-call treasure hunter, and fearless fashion explorer. 20 years ago, we introduced the most beautiful diamond we have ever offered. The signature Forevermark diamond, found exclusively at Benbridge, is beautiful, rare, and responsibly sourced. Each diamond is hand-selected and graded beyond the normal 4 Cs. Less than 1% of the world's diamonds qualify to become a signature Forevermark diamond. Click the banner to explore our signature Forevermark diamond collection.
Benbridge.
I went with Sunday Bloody Sunday is the best track.
Okay.
I went with it, I think, because this is kind of a shallow reason, but this was the first U2 song. This was the first introduction to U2 for me. And it was the song that grabbed me. I didn't know really what in the world they were talking about, but it was but it grabbed me as however old I was in 83, 15, 14. And you can't go wrong picking it. It's an iconic track. I love Mullen's drumming. I love the violin.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of took the easy way out and chose SBS is my number one track.
I don't think that is an easy way out. I mean, I think it is what it is. It's the most treasured and stand out to you personally because it means the most.
Well, it was again, this isn't an album that I really customized. I didn't make it my own as much. There were a few songs. Always kind of made Two Heart Speed as one as my own, and Like a Song as my own, and a little bit Surrender. But Sunday Bloody Sunday was never a song that, I mean, never saw broken bottles under children's feet growing up or anything. So
Not literally, no.
No, not literally. Well,
Greenfield Lane.
Greenfield Lane.
Man, that was rough.
What is your most underrated track?
My most underrated track is Like a Song.
Good pick.
Yeah. And I only recently realized that the opening line is not like a song I have to sing, but I believe it's like a song I had to sing. In other words, I need to sing it. I'm compelled to sing it, not just a song I have here that I'm going to sing. And that kind of changed a lot for me to think that here is, again, this thing that has to come out of me. And I don't even know how to say this, but here's a song I had to sing. I have to do this. I'm compelled. So it's a small thing, but to me, it's a lot. Like a Song has great drums in the beginning, and the outro of guitar and drums is savage. It is just a workout for Larry, and the Edge gets to have so much aggressive guitar in that track. Again, I think this album is expertly produced, polished, but this is the most savage sounding track, and I think that it gets overlooked. It certainly was overlooked maybe by me because so many other great songs that it's a rediscovery for me. That's my underrated track.
Mine would be a track that you're probably not going to take much issue with because we discussed its merits, and that is Surrender. I came close to putting Like a Song down. Surrender is kind of a quintessential U2 song. It has a nice little narrative. There were just bits and pieces of this song that I think are relatable. And again, you've related to this more than I have because we've discussed that ad nauseum. But she tried to be a good girl and a good wife, raise a good family, lead a good life. It's not good enough. She got herself up on the 48th floor, got to find out what she's living for. I have been drawn to that in the past. You know, you do what you're supposed to do, you lead a good life, and yet it's not good enough. And then you come to an apex where you go, okay, this is where everything's on the table, and I've got to figure out what I'm living for. Or maybe a better way to put it is what I'm going to die for.
So what did you think that lyric meant, it's not good enough? As a young fundamentalist, I thought that meant that it wasn't enough that you had to be saved. Okay, that, you know, you couldn't just lead a good life. And of course, that was my knee-jerk reaction to my upbringing. And the more I understood it, I think it's more about it's not good enough for me, like for the person in the song, that it's not good enough to be saved, but like, you know, that it's not going to be fulfilling for that person. So I don't think those are diametrically opposed. Maybe they're both true in a sense. What did you think it was about?
You're taking the spiritual road. I'm taking a little bit more of the pragmatic, if you will, road. I'm a good girl. I'm a good wife. I've done everything I'm supposed to do, and yet this is not fulfilling enough.
Mm-hmm.
There is something out there that has to push me to realize what the essence of life is, whether that's spiritual or whether that's getting up on the 48th floor to find out what this is about. And one of the interpretations I read of this song is that Sadie was an actual person who was a good girl and a good wife, raised a good family, and went out on the street and prostituted herself to find out what she's living for. That part of all of that has always kind of appealed to me, particularly when you're young. You know, you think, well, if I do this and I do that, I'm a good boy, you know, lead a good life, do this, do that. It's not good enough. And then, you know, you find out in your mid-20s, Geez, I don't think that was good enough.
It's kind of a Gen X thing, isn't it? I think it is because,
It's kind of theatrical. It's kind of
well,
moving.
it is, but I also think about this. We went to college, and like the generation maybe a half step older than us went to college and kind of automatically came out of college, got their job. It was a much more black and white process. At least it seemed to be. Now, when you and I went off to college, we were the first ones that, at least people talk about, coming out saddled with debt and couldn't necessarily find a job in their field, and it was not it wasn't a black and white thing. We were there to question the process, and was kind of a, is this the way? In a way, it's kind of like David Byrne. It's like that. This is not my life. This is not my house. This is not my beautiful car. How did I get here?
That song that should be parenthetically inserted into this song.
Right?
It should. It's a great song. We snuck in to see that movie, by the way.
I know.
That? We snuck in Birmingham. We saw Vision Quest.
Oh, great stuff.
And then I don't know, I think you dragged me in to see Stop Making Sense.
Yeah.
And then all I remember is David Byrne setting the
a
jam box down on the stage and just have something I like to play for you. And then he had up the oversized jacket, which I didn't understand what it meant at the time, but retrospectively, that's just great art.
I think this is the award for the best tangent of the podcast.
Gosh, how much of this?
But it is the same thing. It is kind of from the same narrative of that. What is modern life all about? What am I supposed to do to be a fully realized version of myself? Not just to be happy, like a yuppie kind of happy, but like how am I supposed to fully realize my own purpose in life? To be somebody's wife, to be a good girl, to live, as a middle-class person who just gets up and go to work. That's.
I wonder how old she was when she had that. That's one of those male mid-age.
Well, I think you need to stop thinking about Sadie as a specific person. I think Sadie might be a figure.
I think she existed.
A lot of people.
I think she existed.
So
I've read that he had a conversation with maybe.
So that is your underrated track, Surrender.
That is my underrated track.
Okay, and now as the tradition goes, my standout lyrics are from the song Surrender. Oh, the city's on fire, a passionate flame that knows me by name. Oh, the city's desire to take me for more and more. It's in the street, getting under my feet. It's in the air. It's everywhere I look for you. It's in the things I do and say. If I want to live, I got to die to myself someday.
That is the whole song.
Practically, that's the whole third stanza. But still, at first I thought just the first two lines. But then I'm like, it just keeps getting better as you go along. The first part is great. The city's on fire, a passionate flame that knows me by name. I could not wait to get out of Owensboro, Kentucky and live in a big city. Now, it's not like I went to live in, Manhattan or anything, but I just couldn't. That whole romance had me captivated. And this is poetry, man. The city's desire to take me for more and more. It's in the street, getting under my feet, not it's under my feet, but getting under my feet. It's good writing.
It's active.
It's good. And so it's everywhere I look for you. Is this God? Is this looking for someone to love? It encompasses the whole album and the whole essence of the band at this stage right there.
It's interesting because your most underrated track is Like a Song, and mine is Surrender. Your best lyric is from Surrender, and my favorite lyric is from Like a Song. And I referenced this earlier, and that is, a new heart is what I need. Oh God, make it bleed. Is there nothing left? I love it's very gritty. It's very sincere. It's very personal. I think most people could relate to a statement like that. A new heart is what I need. Oh God, make it bleed. This is an album too that I continued to listen to this even when I was, a lot even after it was released. And I think it took that lyric kind of took on a different meaning as I got older. So that is my favorite lyric.
I love it too. It's great.
What's your overall album rating?
9.
Oh,
9.0.
7.6.
God, that's a big gap.
That's the biggest gap yet.
So to recap, like Boy, I had it 7.2, and you had it at
7.1.
7.1. Okay. October 6.4, and yours was
6.7.
6.7. I had this as 9.0, and you have it as
7.6.
okay.
We still have it. We both still have it as their best album
Sure.
up to the point. It's just yours goes up and to the right at a steeper incline than mine does.
There's no weak spot on this album. If you think, oh well, I don't love that song, yeah, but it's not weak. You don't lose any juice on it. It's not like it's a throwaway. There's no 4th of July on this album. Okay, I mean,
don't go knocking the next album now.
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying
Love that album.
That track is not. So I love this album. Every time we do an episode, I'm invigorated to listen to the album again more and more and appreciate it more. I had the great poster in my bedroom, you might remember, of the 4 of them. Bono had on this big like sheepskin collar coat.
I had it in mine too. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
They're all in different stages of looking away. One of them was looking that
my
way.
Spuds MacKenzie poster. Yeah.
Right above a Heather Thomas poster, right?
I didn't have Heather Thomas.
Wasn't there another Heather? Heather Locklear.
I didn't have a Heather. Yeah, Heather Locklear was.
She was
that's another podcast.
Okay, that's also in production. You know, this is the album War, 1983, and they've fully arrived. And by this point they're a mature band, and they took a huge step forward. This is a fun thing to do, man. I'm really enjoying it, and we'd love to hear from folks out there. We've made a lot of new contacts and a lot of new friends on Twitter, and you know, I'm kind of nerding out on all of the social media stuff. I love talking with other people because it's a great thing that you easily have in common with someone else in 2020, and it's not about the pandemic or politics or anything else.
One thing I want to mention here, this is a podcast about music that has greatly influenced us. We are in album 3 of U2's catalog. Once we reach the final album, that will not be the end of our podcast. Now, we are not going to tip our hand right now as to what the future holds, but we have a lot of future plans for this podcast that extend beyond U2. Diving into U2 right now is going to be a process. It's still going to take quite a while, and it is a process that we are thoroughly enjoying.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You know, for now, we took our name, in case you haven't picked up on that, from an interview that Bono had where the most random person in the world shouted from, you know, far below to Bono, and he broke out with this rock and roll doggy. And it stuck with us from the time we ever heard that on MTV with Kurt Loder, whatever. You know, that just became like this phrase that we passed back and forth. What's up, rock and roll doggy? And so here we are. We're having fun doing this, and I hope it's enjoyable for anybody who's listening as well.
Plus, it beats calling the podcast New Boots and Panties.
It's a musical journey.
All right, folks, that's it. Thanks for
All right,
logging
man.
on and listening to our thoughts on one of the most influential bands of the modern era. Please be sure to follow us at Rock and Roll Doggies on Instagram and on Twitter at Roll Doggies for details about our next podcast and other tidbits as we take a chronological journey through the discography of one of the best bands in the world. Until we connect again, good night, everybody.
These days, home is where the everything is. Your work, your gym, the kids' school, your whole life. Xfinity XFi is internet built to handle it all. With XFi, you get the fastest speeds for all your streaming needs, coverage for all your devices, parental controls, and the Xfinity app to control everything. Keep your whole house humming with Xfinity XFi. It's simple, easy, awesome. Go to Xfinity.com/XFi to learn more.
Let's pause. for a pure, crisp, smart water break. It's the vapor-distilled, purely balanced pH smart water you love. Fit for your go-to playlist when you're on the go. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more.
Looking for ways to save on your energy bills? AES Indiana has you covered. From smart thermostats to home energy assessments, we offer simple solutions to keep your home comfortable and your costs down. AES can help you save money and energy with kits, tips, rebates, and more. Visit aesindiana.com/ways to save to learn more about how we can help you save money. AES Indiana, helping you discover real ways to save.